Iniziata la
Sì.
registrazione?
Bene,
Allora buongiorno a tutti innanzitutto. Io sono Marina Carini, sono prorettore delegato Terza missione, attività culturali e impatto sociale. E devo dire che sono ben lieta di essere oggi qui con voi proprio all'apertura di questa serie di incontri che hanno come finalità quella di riflettere, no, e confrontarsi su tematiche sicuramente di ampio respiro, ma essenzialmente centrate su un tema che è quello del cambiamento climatico a cui andiamo incontro. In particolare direi che in questa serie di incontri che vedono come protagonisti molti docenti universitari, ma non solo, perché ci saranno scrittori, esperti, giornalisti che ringrazio chiaramente fin da ora. Si vuole proprio sottolineare come il teatro possa veicolare nel modo ottimale il coinvolgimento e anche la consapevolezza, no, dell'individuo, e soprattutto mi rivolgo qui ai giovani, no, come individui, su tutte quelle che possono essere le strategie che possiamo, anzi dobbiamo porre in atto per affrontare questo cambiamento climatico che così fortemente sta impattando su di noi. Quindi non mi resta che portarvi chiaramente non solamente i miei saluti, ma quelli del nostro magnifico rettore, augurandomi ovviamente che molti giovani abbiano risposto positivamente a questa iniziativa, e lasciatemi solamente ringraziare in anticipo tutti i relatori che si succederanno in questo palinsesto, e chiaramente anche tutti coloro che si sono impegnati più che attivamente nella realizzazione di questa serie di eventi. Quindi buon lavoro a tutti quanti, mi scuso fin da ora, ma non riesco proprio a fermarmi oggi per una concomitanza di azioni che sono in pista. Grazie mille e buon lavoro a tutti quanti.
Buon lavoro. Grazie Marina. Sono Stefano Bocchi e nella scaletta è prevista una mia breve comunicazione, quindi io ringrazio il prorettore Marina Carini per questo intervento, per aver aperto insomma questa prima giornata che riguarda questo progetto. Bene, allora anch'io mi presento, sono Stefano Bocchi, sono un agroecologo, un agronomo, lavoro presso un dipartimento della statale e sono delegato del rettore alla sostenibilità. Proprio pochi minuti e poche riflessioni sul progetto, perché è un progetto molto complesso, molto, come dire, con tantissimi aspetti interessanti, che riguarda chiaramente l'emergenza climatica, l'ambiente, la sostenibilità, tanti aspetti. Io vorrei sottolinearne solo alcuni. Allora, il primo, quello che mi sembra che abbia in qualche modo ispirato anche Margaret Rose, che ha proposto e sta curando il progetto, è questo, cioè sappiamo che tradizionalmente, e ancor più direi nelle nostre università, arte e scienza sono tenute un po' troppo separate, cioè l'arte è una cosa, la scienza è l'altra, e quindi che vadano insomma un po' ognuno per la propria strada, mentre sappiamo che ogni innovazione scientifica ha delle radici profonde su quello che è la creatività, una creatività che ispira invece continuamente l'arte, e viceversa non c'è forse esperienza artistica che non abbia in qualche modo degli aspetti scientifici, anche tecnologici, perché no? Quindi ecco, abbiamo alle spalle degli esempi importantissimi che citiamo spesso: Leonardo da Vinci, grande scienziato e grande artista, oppure non so, Marianne North, che fu insieme botanica e pittrice. Kew Garden conserva ancora i suoi quadri sulle piante tropicali, così precise da un punto di vista della morfologia e della botanica, che sono ancora oggi apprezzate da scienziati e artisti. Ci sono diversi progetti, forse pochi, che riguardano invece appunto un'analisi e uno sviluppo insieme di scienza e arte oggi. e questo è importante. Ancora si trovano alcuni esempi di pittura, di arti visive, di chimica e arte. Ecco, però devo dire che l'idea di mettere insieme il teatro e la scienza su questi aspetti di emergenza climatica direi che è un'idea molto originale, quindi molto, direi, creativa, ecco, per rimanere nel tema. E quindi è un po' anche una sfida che in qualche modo coinvolge tutti noi, perché diciamo la verità, molti di noi non sono abituati ad affrontare in modo, diciamo, un po' integrato, mettendo insieme arte e scienza, dei temi che spesso vengono visti solo da un punto di vista scientifico. L'emergenza climatica, che viene descritta in termini di innalzamento di temperature piuttosto che di piogge che arrivano con intensità diversa rispetto a prima, piuttosto che fusione dei ghiacciai. Ecco, tutti questi aspetti vengono spesso proposti come analisi scientifica che ci informa dell'emergenza. Cosa invece, appunto, ripeto, interessante di questo progetto è cercare di mettere insieme, cercare di coinvolgere il più possibile chi propone e chi viene appunto in qualche modo invitato a pensare a questo, quindi ragazzi dei licei e i colleghi. Quindi in sostanza direi, per quanto mi riguarda, io vi porterò da agronomo in risaia, vi porterò in un'azienda agricola dove semineremo insieme del riso e forse è una cosa molto tecnica ma anche artistica, cioè c'è dell'arte. Infatti io vorrei portarvi in un'azienda agricola dove è stato girato un famoso film, Riso Amaro, e quindi ecco, da sempre l'agricoltura, il paesaggio agricolo è sempre stato legato all'arte. Niente, quindi direi sottolineati questi aspetti che mi piacciono molto, quindi con passione ho aderito insomma alla proposta che Maggie Rose ha fatto e passo la parola appunto alla curatrice, che è Margaret Rose, che appunto ci racconterà meglio di quanto ho fatto io fino adesso come si organizzerà il progetto lungo questi appuntamenti e poi quali sono le tematiche che appunto affronterà. Quindi a te il microfono, Maggie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Stefano. And this seminar workshop is going to be bilingual, so I'll make the most of being able to speak in my own language, which is pretty unusual at Milan University, but that's what's going to happen. And I want to begin by thanking Stefano, Professor Bocchi, and Professoressa Marina Carini for their support. From the beginning, they were the two colleagues who absolutely supported my ideas, even if, you know, it was as Stefano said, quite a complicated project that I was proposing. I also want to thank all the speakers for giving of their time so generously, because, you know, we had very little funding for this project. So both the speakers in Italy and the speakers all over the world have given of their time freely and very, very generously. So absolutely, thank you so much for this. To understand this project, we need to go back to August 2019, when I found myself at the biggest festival in the world, the Edinburgh Festival, the Fringe Festival. And in 2019, there was something remarkable happening in Edinburgh that really surprised me. There was a certain increase in the number of plays that were talking about the climate emergency. There were young groups, especially emerging groups from Britain, from the UK, but also from around the world, who had brought these plays to Scotland to create a conversation about the climate emergency. And it was not only the content of these plays about ocean warming, glaciers thawing, the extinction of certain species, but it was also the theatrical form. these guys had decided, I mean, I found myself at one point in a greenhouse that had been built by a group of young people from St Andrews University with recycled wood, with no electricity, and they were doing this theatre project beside the Scottish Parliament. And it was this wonderful experience of seeing a play for 20 people in a greenhouse with the huge Scottish Parliament next to us. And there we were talking about climate change, but we were also experiencing a form of theatre that needed no electricity, no fancy costumes, no setting, no paper, because every year in Edinburgh with flyers, companies throw away tons and tons of paper. And these people were doing all their promotion online. One of the people I met in 2019 is in our program. Her name is Alanna Mitchell. And I remember seeing Alanna, tiny figure in a theatre with 200 people, talking about the warming of the ocean. And I thought, Alanna is both a scientific journalist, but she's also a creative writer, and she's also a fine actor. And this play and this person really inspired me. And it was a bit like what Stefano was saying before. You know, you can give people scientific facts, notions, and so on. But I think in order to convince them to change something, you need to capture their imagination, their emotions. And probably theatre, more than a novel, more than a film, and so on, can put people in that situation of being immersed in a situation with a performer and interacting, feeling the emotions, but also obviously reasoning on what they can do. So I came back from the Edinburgh Festival in 2019, absolutely, you know, keen on, I wrote an article for Israel, the theatre magazine, which we can send you if anybody's interested in this new climate theatre. And immediately I contacted my, you know, colleagues, Stefano Bocchi and Marina Carini, and began talking about the project. What is interesting then about this project is that it's divided into 4 parts, I think. And the first part is what Stefano was saying, that we've put together this truly multidisciplinary group of people, scientists on the one hand, and other people like Giuliana Iannacaro, Alessandro Vescovi, who are very much into environmental humanities. And these people are all feeding information from different angles about the climate emergency during this seminar. And the idea is that the seminar is going to go out to as big a highest number of people as possible, citizens in Milan, but also the world over if they want to join us, and also secondary, modern secondary schools. The idea is, though, that the people who will be in step 2 of the project, that is the theatre workshop, will have attended the first group of seminars, and they will be able to write their plays with this platform of information that they're going to gain over the next 12 weeks. And I think that's really important to underline. So we're going to have people who are writers, performers in the workshop who have undergone a training in order to start writing. So it's not just going to be, you know, somebody, oh, I'll write about climate change. No, I'll write about climate change having attended these workshops. These 20 people will also have the opportunity to get back to the scientists, get back to the creative writers, to exchange ideas. So it'll be an ongoing process. So having talked about step one and the seminars, I want to say a word, it can't be too long because we've not got all that much time, about the theatre workshop. And I'd like to begin talking about the theatre workshop because, as people know, theatre is made of words, it's made of actions, it's made of dance, and we're going to be using all the theatre languages in our products, you know, that we're going to be producing in this workshop. And I would like to ask to begin with the soprano Anna Jane Davis if she will sing a song from Shakespeare's The Tempest. Anna will be singing this song twice, accompanied by lutist Chris Susan. And the second time she sings it, she'll be introducing it and we'll be talking in more detail about the song. But I'd like to begin now with this song before we talk about the workshop. Thank you, Anna. Please transform yourself into Ariel from the Tempest and go back to 1609 when Shakespeare wrote this beautiful song. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Chris Susan, for that wonderful performance. I'm so sorry not to be in a wonderful Renaissance garden to have heard it, but it was still very, very beautiful. So we now come on to, after the, as we said, the initial seminars, these writers, these 20 writers are going to be writing plays freely according to their, you know, their inspiration, what they got out of the seminars, and they'll be guided by Marco Ghelardi, who will be talking a bit later on, who is a director and a person who has worked both in London and in Italy over recent years, by Sal Cabras, who is a translator and a writer who's going to be looking after the dramaturgy of the text in Italian, and Susan Marshall, who'll be saying a few words about her connection as well with many Shakespeare Green projects, who'll be taking care of the props and the costumes for these plays. So thinking about the workshop, I think it's important to say that we're creating these plays from the seminars, but also having Shakespeare as our guide. You might think, well, why on earth Shakespeare as your guide? Can't you, you know, use contemporary writers? What Shakespeare got to do with a modern day seminar workshop on climate change? Well, I think that Shakespeare, like many Renaissance writers, was much more closely connected, of course, with nature than we are today. And for him, his plays are full of these references to the natural world and the plants, the flowers, the harmony of nature and human beings in that Renaissance setting. So we'll be looking at Shakespeare's, especially Shakespeare's Tempest, because it's in the Tempest that probably Shakespeare puts most intensely what he felt about nature through this situation that he creates. So I think we'll come back now to Anna Jane Davis, who has done several Shakespeare projects in gardens with me, for her to introduce the song that she just sang, tell us a little bit about it, and then sing it again so we can see it in context.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Thank you, Anna. Yeah.
So, yes, Maggie's introduced the Shakespeare, and the natural world plays such a big role in Shakespeare, and especially the Tempest, but also Midsummer Night's Dream, and Ophelia with her herbs. I wonder what Shakespeare would have thought if he came to us now and saw the state that we're in, but what's happening today. Anyway, so nature is very much part of who we are as human beings, I think, for Shakespeare. So one touch of nature makes the whole world kin. We're all friends in nature. We're all family kin. So I'm going to sing the song of Ariel from the Tempest. There are a couple of songs. There's Full Fathom 5. Composer Robert Johnson. So he was of the High Renaissance period of the lute. He was a master lutenist and composer in the court of James I, and of John Dowland. Not quite so well known today, but he's the only composer we can be sure worked with Shakespeare directly. This is really interesting. So we have his original settings of the music, and he was able to bring this musical aspect to the plays, which very much was part of Shakespeare's plays. I don't know if people realise that almost, that music had played a really big part. So worked directly with William Shakespeare, and here Ariel is singing of the joy of her release. She's going to be released from serving Prospero. She's done her work for him. He's the Duke of Milan, of course, as well, and everything is being resolved towards the end of the play, and she's singing of the joy of her release. And I want to thank Christopher Susans again for providing the backing track here. Right. Sorry.
Where the bees express a guy, in a cosy spell I lie, there I couch when owls do cry, on the bat's back I do fly, after summer merrily. Where the bees express a guy, in a cosy spell I lie, there I couch when owls do cry, on the bat's back I do fly, after summer merrily. Merrily, merrily shall I live now, under the blossom that hangs on the bough. Merrily, merrily shall I live now, under the blossom that hangs on the bough.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, so what's happening here? Don't know what's happening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, okay. No, I wasn't clear if you could hear me. So I think that coming back to Shakespeare's plays, it's obvious from this example, from the Tempest, that Shakespeare was very closely thinking about the interconnectedness of human beings, of plants, of animals, of bats in this case, of a cowslip, of Ariel's music. So the interconnectedness of our lives within the macrocosm. What is also interesting as well is that Shakespeare, like all Renaissance writers and theatre makers, was making a sustainable form of theatre, you know, without any electric lighting, often in the outdoors. Most of his plays were done at the Globe, so in close contact with the elements. And this is one thing that we're going to be experimenting with in this project, because we'll be performing our plays both inside and out of doors. We'll be visiting after, when the plays are written, and also rehearsing the plays, not just at the university and in some of the cloisters of the university, but also at the botanical gardens. And I'd like to thank Martin Cater, who's head of the botanical gardens, who is working closely with us on this connection with the university's botanical gardens, so that these plays can, in a way, really benefit from not really a natural setting within a botanical gardens. So once the plays have been written, once the plays have been workshopped, there'll be this third step of performing them in Milan, as I say, at the university, at the botanical gardens, and hopefully in one of the theatres in Milan. So we'll be going on the road within the city, like a travelling troupe of Commedia dell'arte players around Milan, you know, trying to get as well audiences through these site-specific performances that don't normally go to the theatre. Because I often think when you do theatre, we see continually, you know, the same audiences coming to see the plays. And it's only when you go on the road and try to connect with people in site-specific settings that you've got the opportunity to actually try to do connect with people who's, you know, and start a new dialogue about this climate-specific theatre. And the third step for us as the project is no less important, is the creation of a documentary which will use, you know, various parts of the project material that we'll gather as we continue, you know, from today until the end of the project. And here we're very fortunate in Milan in having a television unit, the CTU, who is going to work with us closely and record quite a lot of what happens over the last few months. So we'll have a documentary that'll be both in English and in Italian, and it'll obviously be dubbed in other languages if we can manage it, that then can, you know, be specific obviously to Italy, but we can also distribute it on a much wider level. So these are really the four major steps that we're envisaging in the next few months. And it's very, you know, pleasing to be able to be, you know, here at the beginning with, especially with Anna and Chris, who have followed my Shakespeare work a lot. You know, it's fantastic to have them on board again. So what I would like to do now is ask Marco Ghelardi to say a few words. Marco is going to be directing the plays once they're written, you know, in the workshop. If he would like to, yeah, please, Marco, where are you? Are you somewhere? We can't see you. Yes, Marco. This is
right.
Marco Ghelardi. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you, Maggie. Hello to all, and thank you. Yes, I'm saying a few words. I will have so many things to say, I'll be honest, because this is such an interesting project on such a really, really key subject about our present, about our future. So I was very impressed when Maggie first told me about the project, because I think it's really, really what we need now. And in the sense that climate change is not the future, we know that's our present. We are living through it. We are living through one of its major effects, which is the pandemic that's so affecting our lives, that's so affecting our theaters. And so it is something that we cannot hide from. It's something that we got to face. And all of us as theater makers, as playwrights, as directors, as people who are interested into the art form, people want to know more, people want to try, people to want to start to move the first steps, whoever has got something to do with theater, I think this is the main issue. And from now on, going away from it means being blind to what is among us, to what is surrounding us. And we need to find a way to talk about this, that it's beyond the cliches, beyond the commonplace. And the great thing is that once we start thinking really about climate change, and I think what all the lectures, all the meetings that we will have during these programs will enable us to think deeply what is contained inside these two words, climate change, what that really means. Once we do that, it's a way to really deconstruct the way we live, the way we are now. Because beyond climate change, beyond our difficulties in putting on stage climate change, there is really deep, painful sometimes, but urgent question about who we are as a community, who we are as an individual, where we are going, where we want to go, and how we reach this step. I mean, I think it's the issue that really let us see through the looking glass, so to speak, really through the mirror, and really see the world as it is. So it's really a great challenge. And I think this is not just a gauntlet sent to the great playwrights or the great directors. That of course is something that we need to ask them. We need to demand of them. They got to lead us. They got to show us the way. But it's something that we all have to participate. So I think this is why it's such a good idea that this project is about professional and is about amateurs. It's about the meeting of the two, because we are all in this together, and all of us can put a word, can put and say, can do something, can say something about this. So it's not really a matter of craft at the moment. It's a matter of honesty, I think. I'm really looking inside us and asking all those questions that we are avoiding. But, you know, we can't really avoid them forever, and we will discover that, and we keep discovering day by day. So that they are there, and the question will reach us in any way. And what can we do as artists? Well, we can tell about this. We can story tell it. We can explain as much as we can. We can leave as witness of the strange period of history that we are going through. And I think it's very true in a 100-year time, and when the world is going to be very different from how it is now, and people will look at what we left, what we did during these years, and ask, were they aware of what they were going through? And as much as we think about at the beginning of the 20th century and the people that went through 2 world wars, and we think, were they aware that the world was changing? And so the people that will come after us will ask the same question, and it will be very sad, to say the least, if they found nothing, if they find that we didn't ask ourselves those questions, but all of us, again, not just the great. And I think that it's fantastic that Maggie selected Shakespeare as our guiding light, and as well the play The Tempest, because as much as The Tempest is set in a fantastic island, in a Garden of Eden, so to speak, is a play about violence, is a play about power, is a play about blood. So one of the great things is that Shakespeare didn't blind himself to the cruel realities of life. So yes, he described paradise on earth, but there are devils in that paradise, and the devils are us. We are the devils. That's clear from The Tempest. And that's really a great model to deconstruct and see what pieces we can use. So I think this is very exciting. I think this is really a great project, and I wouldn't be surprised if that will then carry through beyond it, and then they will then develop it into something else, because it's so resonant, so precious, so important, and it's so much at the crossroads of so many things. And the people that will start to write the plays, what I'm saying to them, be brave, really don't stop at the mundane. Try to find space for the exceptional in your story, because the exceptional has happened. We are living through an exceptional time, so we shouldn't hide behind labels like realism, like verisimilitude or something like that. We are beyond that now. Shakespeare wasn't afraid of putting on a fairy on stage, a spirit of the air, wasn't afraid of putting on a monster on stage, because this is what he felt it was right to do for the play. So that's a great challenge. Go for the exceptional. Go for something that really beggars belief, because that says a lot about our time. So thank you. I'm really looking forward to read the plays and to put them on.
Yeah. Thank you, Marco, for this really, very. You're already imagining these plays written. I can't believe it. We've still got to start this seminar, but that's the spirit that we're working in, aren't we? Really great. So we've now got Susan Marshall, a costume designer and costume historian, who, like Marco, has worked with me on other projects. Susan, though, has followed several of my plays in gardens, Shakespeare in gardens. So there's nobody better than Susan to actually, who already knows Anna, to work on this project. Can you tell us, Susan, how you feel you'll be able to contribute to these plays that are going to be going both in a regular theatre, but also into the botanical gardens again, into the cloisters of the university, and probably in other places that will be invited to perform them?
Yes, thank you, Maggie. I'm delighted to be working with you again, and with Marco and Anna, and some other names that I've seen on the programme. It's very, very important to me, this part of sustainability. I think that this I can bring certainly to the project with my costumes. I'm a costume designer, but I also lecture in the history of fashion. And of course, the future of fashion is going to have to move towards this, towards sustainability. And I think that it's very interesting to take Shakespeare as the guiding line in this as well, because of course the Elizabethans would have recycled their clothes very much, because the cloth was expensive, because the rich would use their change the style of their fashions to update, but the poor would also recycle things and pass them down in the family. So I think this idea of recycling, but also the idea of using natural fibers, of using natural dyes as well, if we can, is certainly something that I would like to bring towards the plays. Obviously, at the moment, I haven't got a clue what will come out. And of course, that doesn't matter because Shakespeare can be done in any way possible, can't he? And I think that, you know, I'm just waiting and looking forward to seeing what happens. And I'm here to help with this.
No, thank you, Susan. No, I know how versatile you are and how resourceful you are as well. Once you've got the plays, you'll be coming up with all sorts of interesting ideas from the gardens, things we can use taken straight from the botanical gardens or other natural settings, but also, as you say, recycling, which is the essence, isn't it, of the whole project? Because in a way, we're now hoping to recycle ideas that are already in Shakespeare as well, in the Tempest and in other plays. I think now, if there is Chiara Del Vaglio with us, is it possible, Chiara, to ask the audience if they've got any questions?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I think that you can ask the audience or maybe anybody else.
Yes.
For the next seminars or next steps, anybody?
Well, perhaps we could say something about the next seminar. The next seminar is Professor Giorgio Vacchiano, who will be talking from a wood. And this isn't unusual for Giorgio. I think he much prefers woods and forests to classrooms. So he'll be talking from the Bosco di Città and talking about climate change. But what is interesting is that Giorgio is very interested in Shakespeare, and he's going to be performing, I won't tell you from which play or which monologue, but it's a very, very important monologue. I want to keep it as a surprise from Shakespeare that talks specifically about climate change and climate emergency. So we'll have Giorgio both as a professor of forestry, but also as he loves performing. He'll be performing this monologue. Yeah. So if there are any questions from people who are listening, sorry, before we take questions, could I ask Valeria Nobili, who is very kindly helping us with the organization of this seminar, to say something about the organization, about the way you can offer information to the people who are now online, Valeria?
Yes, I switched to Italian for our
switch to Italian.
Yes, for the sake of students. Ok, buongiorno a tutti. Dunque, io e il dottor Riccardo Cassarino, che oggi purtroppo non può partecipare, siamo disponibili ad aiutarvi con qualsiasi problema di tipo tecnico dobbiate affrontare. Potete scriverci all'email che trovate sul programma, la scrivo anche qui nella chat, così l'avete anche qui nel caso non la troviate, e davvero scriveteci per qualsiasi tipo di questione tecnica, informativa o organizzativa.
E poi Valeria, è vero che ci saranno materiali con ogni speaker, no? Come funziona questo del materiale aggiuntivo?
Noi raccogliamo il materiale che gli speaker vorranno utilizzare per ogni seminario. Oggi ho già condiviso nella chat 2 file, una è la canzone di Anna e l'altro è il tuo articolo, Maggie, riguardo al Fringe Festival, quindi chiunque fosse interessato li può scaricare, sono qui disponibili per tutti. Condivideremo man mano ogni incontro condivideremo il materiale che gli speaker ci forniranno.
Sì, e c'è già materiale per Giorgio Vacchiano o no?
No, al momento no,
No,
non ci è inviato
ok.
niente.
Va bene, sì. Ci sono, grazie Valeria, quindi, e come diceva Valeria, c'è anche il dottor Riccardo Casarino, che in futuro ci sarà anche Riccardo da aiutarci con il materiale, informazione generale. Sì. Se non ci sono altre domande, possiamo anche finire, forse, Chiara?
Sì, direi anch'io di sì, così almeno rimaniamo nei tempi e ovviamente aspettiamo tutti quanti per il prossimo appuntamento che appunto sarà mercoledì prossimo. Dopodiché direi che diciamo, gli aspetti legati ai laboratori saranno condivisi nelle prossime settimane in funzione appunto di una fase di elaborazione che appunto stiamo intraprendendo adesso.
Sì.
E di conseguenza appunto per la fase laboratoriale vedrete che riceverete, siccome in alcuni appunto hanno scritto per avere informazioni, riceverete man mano le informazioni per la raccolta candidature e quindi insomma il coinvolgimento. Pertanto ecco, se avete qualche domanda magari da scrivere in chat, se non amate apparire in video, fate pure, insomma. Non so se il professor Bocchi vuole fare un saluto conclusivo poi. Ah, ecco, c'è Melissa Piterresi che ci scrive.
Certo.
Allora, ecco, allora dunque Melissa Piterresi segnala una problematica tecnica che noi che siamo del mondo Unimi non riusciamo a percepire, pertanto ecco di questo ci scusiamo perché ci sono alcuni dettagli tecnici che dall'interno non conosciamo. Come fare ad accedere al materiale se si è esterni, perché evidentemente in chat non sono scaricabili. Allora, facciamo così, noi cercheremo di mandarlo via mail cercando di non trasferire materiale particolarmente pesante, perché poi fare questi invii via mail è sempre un po' antipatico perché la sensazione di intasare le caselle di posta elettronica delle persone a cui vengono inviati. Pertanto, credo che la cosa migliore sia che ci scriviate per appunto ricevere il materiale in maniera tale che non intasiamo le caselle magari di chi invece è riuscito a scaricare o comunque a recuperare il materiale.
Sì,
perché
che scrivono a Valeria.
Sì, esatto, scrivetemi pure una mail a questo indirizzo che ho scritto qui sopra e io sono felice di inviarvi tutto il materiale.
Benissimo, grazie Valeria. Stefano, vuoi dire qualcosa in conclusione?
Ma a conclusione direi niente, dare l'appuntamento al 3 di marzo, ormai siamo molto vicini alla partenza, ogni settimana potremo rivederci e quindi accumulare queste belle esperienze. Io spero proprio che insomma, ci sia una risposta e anche un coinvolgimento sempre più forte da parte anche degli studenti. Mi sembra che ci siano tutte le prospettive e i componenti. Quindi io direi un caldo saluto a tutti e ringrazio anch'io Anna perché è molto bello il canto che ci ha fatto sentire, quindi grazie. E ringrazio naturalmente anche tutti gli altri che hanno partecipato e hanno dato il loro contributo. Maggie, direi a presto, ci vediamo presto il 3 marzo.
E speriamo appunto di poter coinvolgere Anna e Chris anche nelle pièce, insomma, no? Se è possibile.
Sì.
Dobbiamo naturalmente vedere come va tutta la situazione con il Covid, ma sarebbe bellissimo. Sì. Sì, quindi chiudiamo lì ringraziando tutti che hanno partecipato oggi e arrivederci la prossima settimana. Grazie. Buonasera.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. Grazie.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Ciao, arrivederci a tutti.
Ciao. Ciao.
Arrivederci.
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 Arrivederci.